From chainstorage.com, retail's worst kept secret, growing returns problem. This stat just jumped out. 2020 U.S. retail returns total $428 billion with a B, just over 10% of the retail trade. We've chatted about this a bit before. Keep reinforcing it. What are some thoughts here, Dan?
Well, Rob, I mean, the biggest thing is, yes, returns are perhaps the worst kept secret in retail. But the big secret is how they negatively affect your store, your customer, and your bottom line. And back in March, I don't know, it might be a month ago now, we had a retailer question from Rachel in Mooresville, North Carolina, and we touched on return policies. And while this article goes deeper than the policy and how the impact, how a policy impacts retailers, it speaks to avoiding retailer-caused returns as well. E-commerce's average return rates are 2 to 3 times than product bought in your store in the same category. So if I'm selling t-shirts online and in my brick and mortar store, I'm going to get 1 return in my brick and mortar store, and I'm going to get 2 or 3 returns in e-commerce. And most of our current conversations on returns are focused on how to improve the shopper's return experience. And this article's authors, I wish I could pronounce their names, really great. We'll have a link to it here. I would totally mess it up, and nobody likes to have their name messed up. But this article's authors wanted to explore a few fundamental questions. Why do returns occur? What can retailers do to reduce the incident and cost of returns? And what things can we do to mitigate returns? So these guys partnered with Incisive. Incisive is one of those study houses. So they did this hybrid study, and I pulled a couple of findings for us to just chat about. So retailers see a large improvement opportunity in return rates. Retailers in the survey reported an average annual return rate of 11%, but only 3% of them responded that the current return rate was optimal. The remaining believe there's opportunity to reduce return rates by about 30%. And so for an omni-channel retailer with a blended return rate of 10%, it amounts to 3% of your annual revenue. One of the other things that came out of this is that retailers just totally lack understanding on what the cost of a return really is. Less than half of retailers track a financial impact of their return. And virtually no one, I think the number was 4%, track the impact of returns on their customer, on their brand, or on the environmental factors. We've got some pretty good examples of where we're letting ourselves down environmentally, where vendors are letting ourselves down. Some of the greatest advocates, for environment are shipping things out 1 and 2 and 3 at a time instead of holding. And so that is also causing us some grief. So less than half of the retailers are tracking the financial cost of their return, and barely anyone, 0, is measuring this impact that we talk about, whether it's on environment or anything else. And I think that this lack of conversation amongst retail leaders is embarrassing. This should be something that we're focused on. Returns, customer returns, should be a scorecard number that's tracked and trended. And when that number goes off track, we take action to fix it. And we've got to look inside an article like this to say, hey, wait a minute, not all returns are shopper driven. Many are retailer driven. And 6,200 return transactions measured across all non-food retail categories, inclusive, analyzed the shopper's reason for return and found that 73% of returns occur due to a retailer-controlled action or inaction. For example, shopper returned a purchase due to inaccurate product description, a wrong item, or the wrong SKU sent by, fulfillment error by the retailer, or an issue with product fit. These are avoidable returns, and every retailer has to have a strategy in place to review, audit, and improve their retail return rates. And we're not doing that well enough today, and not recognizing that if I could improve my customer returns by a third, it's throwing 3% back down to my, in my annual sales line.
Amazing to learn. Like I would say, our poor customers are taking the brunt of the load of the blame game when it comes to returns. But hearing this, that over 70% of it is, well, it's back on us.
It's back on us,
right? It's our systems and processes, and to your point, just not enough people have an even understanding of what's causing the returns in there, but just overgeneralize it that darn customers.
It's Karen. Karen. But it's not. We should be looking. Listen, you've been in sales for a long time, Rob. Whenever we have a miss, we ask ourselves, what could I have done better? Right? And in this return scenario, we blame the customer every single time, no matter what. Rarely will we say, oh my God, we're screw ups here. We're, sending the wrong product. We're not putting good descriptions. We've got the wrong descriptions. We don't have any sizing. There's no size scale. There's no size referencing. So somebody that's a large ends up buying one of your Euro larges and it fits like a medium, and they return the thing because, well, how are they supposed to know? We come from this apparel world that is very, very tactile. I mean, I'm not going to order something online unless I'm 1,000% sure it's going to fit me, right? And you look for, where is it coming from? Where's their size scale? And looking at, a retailer's website, looking for that. I mean, sizing is the number one reason products come back. But if that makes up 7 out of 10 of your returns, shit, we got a bigger problem than, But just inequalities in the imagery, in the description, in sizing, in picking orders. The wrong thing gets picked and packed, whether it's a size or SKU that's wrong. Those things are all avoidable. And unless we're talking about it, you'll never avoid them.
We've talked in the past, Dan, of your planning your week and your agendas with yourself as the owner of the team. Here's one, return review, be it once a month or once a week with the team, and just making sure that there's dialogue around it, whether it's with yourself or with your team member.
Well, customer returns should be a scorecard number. It should be a retailer scorecard number that gets measured. I mean, scorecard, every single week, I'm putting a number down on my scorecard. And I score myself every week. And that doesn't mean I'm only looking at necessarily the last 7 days. I could be looking at an average of the last 30 days and saying, look, the average of return rate in the last 30 days is dot. And every week I'm using that, what's my return rate for the last 30? So 1 week falls off, 1 week adds on. And so if the number sneaks up or sneaks down, you're doing a better or poorer job. But you've got to have a scorecard in your business. It can be the most simplistic scorecard in the world. But you've got to have something that keeps your finger on the pulse of the business, a data-driven scorecard.